You're on a channel dedicated to sci-fi horror, creepy, mysterious, and thrilling stories. Today, we have a book from horrorstories.app, a platform filled with terrifying and awesome sci-fi tales. Check out the link in the description. There's plenty to read and listen to. Now get comfortable. Here's a story that won't let you sleep.
Dr. Elena Vasquez's breath hitched as her boots crunched against the brittle ground. The glass planes shimmered in the weak light of the dying sun, fractured reflections cutting at her eyes like shards of a mirror. Her gaze kept wandering to the horizon, where the jagged silhouette of the obsidian spire rose like an accusing finger. It seemed almost to beckon her, its surface unnervingly smooth, bioluminescent veins pulsing faintly in the distance like a heartbeat struggling against death. An almost imperceptible vibration ran through the ground beneath her, syncing disturbingly with her own pulse. "Stay sharp." Captain Malik's voice cut through the oppressive quiet, his tone clipped, authoritative. His presence was a solid weight at her side, a counterpoint to the awful pull of the spire's eerie glow. Elena glanced at him briefly, catching the hard set of his jaw and the faint crease of unease in his brow. Jenna Park trailed behind them, her mechanical arm twitching again. A subtle, rhythmic tremor that made Elena's stomach churn. The movement seemed to echo the faint vibrations underfoot, a dissonant harmony with the alien hum that seemed to emanate from the spire itself. The landscape was changing. The previously flat, cracked expanse of the glass planes began to warp as they approached the spire. Small fissures spiderwebbed across the ground, glowing faintly with the same organic light they'd seen before, and more of the peculiar shimmering vegetation began to emerge, their chitinous leaves twisting unnaturally toward the intruding humans. The air carried a faint metallic tang that clung to the back of Elena's tongue, thick and oppressive. Her data tablet buzzed softly on her wrist, streams of garbled information scrolling across the screen. "This can't be right," she muttered, her voice thin in the stifling silence. "What is it?" Malik asked, not breaking stride. His hand hovered near the holster on his belt, his tension palpable. Elena tapped the screen, frustration growing as the data remained incomprehensible. The spire. It's emitting some kind of signal. The readings are organic but also mechanical. It's like nothing I've ever seen. It's distorting everything. It's almost as if it's alive, Jenna interrupted, her voice barely audible. She was staring ahead, her face pale, sweat beating along her temple. Her arm twitched more violently now, the movement synced in perfect rhythm with the vibrations beneath their feet. Elena hesitated. The word felt too bold, too weighty, but it lingered in her mind nonetheless. Alive. She turned back to her tablet, trying to focus on the data rather than the oppressive pull of the alien structure ahead. As they neared the spire's base, the air grew colder, heavier. The faint hum in the atmosphere deepened into a resonant vibration that seemed to crawl inside Elena's chest. The spire loomed impossibly tall up close, its surface unnaturally smooth and reflecting the faint bioluminescent veins like a pulse of alien blood. Malik raised a hand, signaling them to stop. "Keep your distance," he ordered, his voice low but firm. "Park, monitor those vibrations. Vasquez, keep scanning. Let's not get closer until we know what we're dealing with." Elena nodded, kneeling to set her tablet against the ground. The moment the scanner touched the surface, the screen flared with chaotic energy readings. She adjusted the settings, her fingers trembling slightly. The hum from the spire seemed to amplify, resonating deep within her skull, as if the structure itself were probing her thoughts. "This doesn't add up," she whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. The signal's patterns defy known biological or mechanical systems. It's emitting energy, but it's reactive. It's like it's responding to us. It's watching us, Jenna said suddenly, her voice sharp and rising with panic. She had stepped back, her wide eyes fixed on the spire's glowing veins. God, it's reading us. I can feel it. Park, Malik snapped, his tone cutting through her panic. Focus. But Elena couldn't dismiss Jenna's words entirely. There was a presence here, something vast and inscrutable, pressing in on them from all sides. Her data tablet flickered, and for a moment she thought she saw something. Patterns in the chaos, shapes that felt disturbingly familiar. She blinked, and they were gone. "Captain," she began, her voice tight, "I think we should—" The ground beneath them pulsed violently, cutting her off. She staggered, throwing a hand out to steady herself. Behind her, Jenna cried out, falling to her knees as the vibrations tore through her arm like static. Malik drew his weapon instinctively, his eyes scanning their surroundings, but there was nothing. Only the spire, its glowing veins now pulsing faster, brighter, in a pattern that felt almost intentional. "Elena." Malik's voice was low, tense. She followed his gaze to the base of the spire where a shadow had appeared, a shifting, writhing shape partially embedded in the smooth black surface. "What the hell is that?" Jenna whispered, her voice trembling. Elena stepped closer despite herself, her pulse pounding in her ears. The shape resolved into something grotesque. A human-like figure, twisted and incomplete, its body fused with the spire's surface. It was partially transparent, its features warped and wrong, as though someone had tried to sculpt a human from melted glass. Bioluminescent veins threaded through its form, pulsating faintly in time with the spire's glow. Its face, if it could be called, that was frozen in an expression of agony, its mouth open in a silent scream. Its eyes, or what remained of them, seemed to shift, as though tracking their movements. "Elena," Malik barked, pulling her back. "Don't get any closer." She stumbled, her breath coming in shallow gasps. "It's human," she said, her voice barely audible. "Or it was." "Not anymore," Malik said grimly, his weapon trained on the grotesque figure. "We're leaving, now." Jenna was trembling, her mechanical arm twitching uncontrollably as she stared at the thing fused to the spire. This is what it does. This is what it wants. God, we need to get out of here." "Elena," Malik snapped, pulling her attention back. "Can you get anything from this? Anything useful?" She tore her gaze away from the fused figure, focusing on her tablet. The readings were still chaotic, but there was something deeper, a pattern emerging from the noise. She hesitated, her fingers hovering over the screen. "I might be able to decode the signal," she said finally, her voice tight. "But I'll need more time." "You'll do it from the ship," Malik said firmly. "We're too exposed out here." A sudden, high-pitched hum cut through the air, sharp and disorienting. The spire's glow intensified, its veins now pulsating rapidly, erratically. The fused figure twitched, its distorted form shifting slightly against the smooth surface. Elena's stomach turned. "Move," Malik ordered, his voice cutting through the rising noise. They turned and ran, the vibrations beneath their feet growing stronger with each step. Elena clutched her tablet to her chest, her mind racing. The spire's signal wasn't just random noise, it was communication. And whatever it was saying, it was directed at them. As they reached the relative safety of the ship, Elena glanced back. The spire loomed over the glass plains, its bioluminescence casting an eerie light across the fractured terrain. The figure at its base was barely visible now, but the image was burned into her mind. Inside, the airlock sealed with a hiss, and the oppressive hum of the spire was replaced by the tense silence of the ship. Malik holstered his weapon, his expression grim. "What the hell was that?" Jenna demanded, her voice shaking. She was pacing now, her mechanical arms still twitching violently. "What the hell is this place?" "It's not a place," Elna said quietly. "It's a system. The spire, the fissures, the plants, it's all connected. It's alive." Malik exhaled sharply, running a hand over his face. "And it's watching us." Elena nodded, her stomach nodding. "It's more than that. It's learning." Jenna stopped pacing, her face pale. "Learning what?" Elena didn't answer. She didn't need to. The thought was already there, lurking in the back of her mind like a shadow. Learning how to use them, how to consume them. Silence fell over the crew, heavy and suffocating. The spire's faint glow was still visible through the viewport, a constant reminder of the alien presence that now loomed over them. And deep down, Elena knew the Hive's attention had only just begun to unravel them.
The horror doesn't end on this page. Subscribe to turn the next terrifying chapter